Call, please. Thank you, Mark.
Nancy Kupka.
Present.
Mike Davenport.
Here.
Dan Nicholas.
Here.
Terry Pavasich.
Here.
Rick Pavanato.
Here.
Thank you. Oh,
The microphone's there, so.
with gusto. Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Here.
Zoe Boyd. And Sam Bull. Thank you.
We have a quorum. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. And Mark, thank you. We're going to start with the student perspectives. South High.
Good evening. Well, we're excited to have 3 students here we put February to bed yesterday, but we had a lot going on with our students in February celebrating Black History Month. We had our drama production celebrating Black History Month. We have students to talk about that. And our Emoji Club sponsored several activities throughout the month that they're here to share some of their experiences. Before I let the kids introduce themselves, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about their sponsors, because the amount of time the teachers put in with the kids, and as you've learned, everything is much harder and takes longer in this environment. So, excuse me. Nathaniel Haywood, Tiffany Rubin, Kenny White, Alice Freelon, and Sheldon Davis are the sponsors of the DGS Drama and the Emoji Club, and they put in countless hours. So I will turn it over to the students now and let them tell you more.
Hello, I'm Yasmin Khan, and I am part of the Black History Play, and this was my first year in the Black History Play, so I think that my perspective is a little bit different than Omari's, and I'm also a senior. So thank you for having me, and I think the first thing I'll talk about is the most obvious part of the play, which was that it was all virtual. That was probably the best decision I think Mr. Haywood and Ms. Rubin could have made, because at its core, Black History Month is about celebrating it, but also about educating other people on Black history and also educating ourselves. So a big part of it, choosing to go all virtual for the play, was that we could ensure that we were able to present it to everyone and not be worried about going back hybrid or going virtual, and just know that we could present to everybody. And I think ultimately there were some obstacles, of course, but it was a really great opportunity because I personally was able to send the link to other family members and have more people consider the issues that we talk about, versus if it were in person, which is also different, but it was a good opportunity for that. And in that vein, we also decided to go do 4 short plays by Idris Goodwin instead of opting to do a whole full-length play, which is what the Black History Play has been in previous years. And we did that because, of course, there are lots of props and different scenes that you have in a normal play, and for flexibility's sake, we decided to go do it in 4 different scenes so we could work with what every person had and optimize our ability to be creative and present, which ended up working quite well. Personally, for me, I think that this was just a really great opportunity, because I've never been in the Black History Play, to get to deal with very immediate issues that are relevant to lots of people, and I think they're relevant to each and every one of us, actually. And I think that also it was really the best part for me was being able to work and create with people who wanted to continue a dialogue and further a dialogue about Black history, because it's something that we really need to do. And those discussions that we had were, at the start, with each play, we would always discuss, but really that discussion carried through the entire thing is we're trying to understand characters better, understand why Harry is so mad at Sydney, for example. And that was a big part of it for me, because what I realized, and what we all know, that everyone has different perspectives, but to step into the shoes of someone and see how people think differently and how that doesn't make them good or bad, but how we can address that, was a really big thing for me to see, and I think something that hopefully other people will continue to want to discuss as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Omari Taylor, and besides Umoja and DGS Drama, I'm a captain of the girls track team, and I'm a part of Changemakers. So Yasmin basically hit on everything, but I would like to give a different perspective. So I like the 4 plays we decided to pick. It feels very prevalent with what is going on around the world. For example, I was in #Matter, which was about like Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, and how that can harm or help our society talking about these topics. And so that was very important to me for us to have it into our DGS drama. And so I've been a part of DGS drama for a couple of years now, and obviously we have reimagined what it means to have a Black History Month play. So for this year, it was different from last year, because, well, we had both directors, Miss Rubin and Mr. Haywood, direct together. So that was honestly a great experience, because I never had both great directors help with making the production run smoothly. So moving on to Umoja, basically we have a podcast called Young Voices for Unity. And for the Black History for the Black History Month, we basically, a lot of the times, focus on Black history in America, but Black history is everywhere. So the topics were African culture versus Black American culture. And we had seniors, Andy Agay, who is from Ghana, and Sarah Nuale, who is from Uganda, and they gave their perspective on what it was like living in their countries and moving here to America. They talked about the differences in the culture, the language, the food, and especially the education, which was very different, and also the society that they lived in their countries. So that was a very great different perspective, and they painted a really great image on the differences between here and in their countries. So that was something with the podcast that we did to reimagine Black history for the month of February. And another thing that we did was basically a social media challenge. So we asked students and staff, to take a picture of themselves with a quote of their favorite Black historical figure. So for example, I did W.E.B. Du Bois, and then I had one of his quotes next to me in a picture, and we actually had a lot of people do this. For example, the Latino Student Union, they had their people take a picture with the quote, and like DGS Drama also did it as well, and then other staff members. So that was great, and that was just 2 out of the 4 ways we, as Umoja, reimagined Black history. So I'll give it off to Cam.
Hi, my name is Cameron Harper, and I'm currently a junior here at South. I'm the president of Umoja, but besides Umoja, I am in class board and National Honor Society. So Omari kind of already touched on the 2 things that we did, which was the social media challenge and the Young Voices for Unity podcast. But we also hosted a trivia night and a movie night through Zoom. For the movie night, we showed Harriet, which was on February 17th, and it was pretty good. We had a pretty decent turnout. And then the following week, we played about 8 Kahoot games, different Kahoot games that the cabinet members and the sponsors, Mr. White and Miss F, we created them on our own. So we thought it would be a good way to kind of learn, but in a fun way. And then the winners of each Kahoot game got a gift card of their choice that was emailed to them by Mr. White or Miss F. And from the Kahoot games, they were from numerous categories, so it wasn't all just one thing that we were focusing on. Some of the categories were women, sports, education, entertainment. We had one touching on kind of like little known facts, things that's not mainly known to the public. But yeah, that, and then the movie night along with the podcast and the social media challenge is the 4 things that Umoja decided to host in order to commemorate Black History Month for this year. And yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Excellent presentation. Any questions?
You said you do?
I said excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I always have questions. What were the quotes what quote did you select? It doesn't have to be verbatim. Like you had, like Omari had D.W. Du Bois.
Oh, you say yours.
Any of, I don't know if everybody
I
selected.
did a quote by Maya Angelou. I can't remember the specific quote, but I will read it to you guys in just 1 second.
She has it somewhere.
I would have to do the same thing, so.
Yeah, we're not going to test you. I mean, you're just to be like a bot.
That's right.
Oh, okay. I mean, I have it. All right. So now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. W.E.B. Du Bois.
I love it.
I like it.
Yes.
Very good.
And while she's searching, the podcast, is that downloadable through the DGS website?
There is a link. I know it is on Spotify and I believe Apple Music.
Apple Music, okay.
I'll make sure that
You'll make sure-
forward it to
we'll
the
put it
board
on.
this week.
Send us the link. Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
Okay.
we had 3 episodes, and the first one is like 30 minutes, second one 30 minutes, and the other one is 24 minutes. So it's pretty lengthy, but really great content.
And it's Young Voices.
Yeah, it's Young Voices for Unity. So
Unity.
it's the acronym, and then, yeah, it's the acronym basically.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have my quote here right now. It says, "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it," by Maya Angelou.
Very nice.
Nice.
Thank you, ladies. Any other questions? Did you have one, Zoe? Go ahead.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Well, first of all, I watched the play and you guys did a great job. And I just wanted to ask, did you guys have any favorite moments from rehearsing or shooting or anything particularly memorable?
I would say doing Act Free, me and Diana Boone both spilled water on ourselves, so that was that was pretty funny, I guess.
I would say in Black Flag, probably just the part where we get mad at each other and yell. It's just fun to be loose and free, but it's also a pretty good depiction of how sometimes reality can be.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll reiterate, I normally don't speak after they're done, but I reiterate, the podcast is great. I spend as much time learning, listening to that as I do learning anywhere else during the day. The kids' perspective is unbelievable. So I'll second what Omari said. And then finally, Omari's honest too. Some of you watched her probably on the Village of Woodridge's monthly meeting in February. She was featured on there.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry, Ed, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I want to make sure everyone knew too, just to highlight Omari.
Also, one of the first few episodes that were released, you can hear both me and Omari talk on separate episodes. Mine is the system versus choices. That was the topic for the episode I was on. What was yours?
Also, there will be a next episode, and I'm also featured in that, as well as Quentin from North, and that will be about implicit biases and microaggressions.
Cool. Yes. Yeah. Which is what our Mustang Way lesson was on today.
I'm sorry, which was what?
We had a Mustang Way lesson presented online today in third period, and we were also in that, but it was touching on microaggressions and implicit bias, and we collaborated with Black Student Union and their sponsors from Downers Grove North as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, well done.
Moving on to the student board member questions and comments.
Before they start, we have some big news regarding Sam this week. Sam was named as the High School Journalist of the Year in Illinois.
All right.
Congratulations.
And you're going to study journalism at Northwestern, correct? Or what are you studying at Northwestern? You're studying journalism at Northwestern, correct? Or something else?
I'm going to political science, but
Yeah.
I'm going to try to transfer into the Medill School of Journalism after the first quarter, because I heard it was easier to get into the regular school and then transfer in than to apply directly to journalism. So I figured I'd do that.
Smart choice.
Well, either way, I mean, political science, journalism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To do it
yeah.
that
So
way.
the national competition is, I believe, March 15th. So on the off chance that I get National Journalist of the Year, I'll let you guys know, definitely.
All right. We're rooting for you.
Well, we're rooting.
Yes.
All right, but in terms of what has been going on, I mean, not much has changed since last week when I last gave a report, but some small things, well, one small thing, one big thing, I would say. The Athenas, and for the sports world, were one spot away from making state this past weekend. I believe that South qualified, which is really cool. A little bit salty, but it's okay. And then I think this is super cool. The other BSU hosted event that I was talking about that happened this past Thursday, I think it was called a Black Professionals Panel. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Miss Brittany Mitchell for, I don't know exactly who organized what, but I could tell based on the people that were there that she knew most of the people that were brought in, and she had the connections, and she brought people in, and she was talking to people and having those conversations. And it was super, super cool to hear all these different perspectives and voices. I got to hear from an ex-Marine, a doctor, a lawyer, an insurance agent, all those kinds of things. And just hearing about, you know, what they do, but also then how their experience has been different being a minority, or a person in a minority group while also being in that kind of profession. So it was a really eye-opening experience. And I would just say that it was kind of disappointing seeing that almost 90% of the people I would say there were teachers. I think I was one of just a handful of students that came, which is really sad because it was a really, really cool experience, and I just wish that students, you know, wanted to get that exposure and wanted to have those experiences a little bit more. But I think that that came through in the PBIS lesson today, as they were mentioning. North had one too, and it was a lesson on microaggressions and biases and stuff like that. So I think incorporating into the curriculum is definitely a great way to get all students exposed to it. So those are just a couple things that have been happening. So really, really great week last week.
So,
Questions?
thank you.
Okay, well, another short report over at South, but something exciting that happened today, I think, actually, is that 4 D99 students earned Midwest Region Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for various creative writing works of theirs. They were Madeline Risque, Maya Homburg, Madeline McGovern, and Madison Smith, so very good job to them. And then, yeah, like Omari and Yasmin touched on earlier, today we had Mustang Way and Positively North lessons. They were about mostly allyship, and as they were talking about micro and macro aggressions and how everyone at school can be better allies for marginalized groups, and I personally really enjoyed the presentation. I think that they all did a really good job. And since there wasn't much to report, I just wanted to bring a little attention to an event, a webinar that's going on Wednesday night. It's for any families or people in District 99 about ways that students and parents can better communicate right now, just in general. So I'd encourage anybody, remote or hybrid, to attend it. It sounds really interesting. And then finally, this past Sunday, I think, we got our first shipment of vaccines, which is really exciting. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Questions for Zoe? Thank you both.
Very good.
Very much. School year update.
Clicker doesn't want to click. There we go. All right, so thank you for the segue, Zoe. So vaccinations. We ran a community clinic here at South High yesterday. We had about 1,300 people come through during the day. That was put together collaboratively through the folks that are listed there. It's really the other superintendents in the elementary schools that are my partners, along with primarily the village of Downers Grove and Woodridge, were the main planners. But then we had volunteers from all of the organizations listed there. CodoCare was the third party that administered the vaccines, and DuPage County Health Department provided the vaccines. This was after a lot of work. We've been advocating for a clinic like this here since December. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 weeks with some starts and stops. Everybody knows the challenges right now with acquiring vaccines. In the end, over the last 6 weeks, we've partnered with many other school districts with their clinics to slowly use up spaces and get staff members through a variety of different clinics, and many of our staff are making appointments on their own and getting vaccinated. As of the end of the school day today, we have 85% still vaccinated or scheduled. Well, it rounds out to be 85-14, somewhere in there, right? So 14%. But of that amount remaining, 5% won't be getting vaccinated because of medical issues or those kinds of things. So really we're sitting at about 75 staff members left to be vaccinated. So that, over a 6-week period, that's, nearly 800 people vaccinated. Because we all had been working with other organizations and getting staff vaccinated, when we originally planned on scheduling this, we thought that nearly all of the doses coming in would go to municipal employees or to school personnel. But in the end, we ended up only needing about 500 or so doses for school employees or municipal personnel. So it switched from us believing we were going to bring in a few hundred seniors to bringing in over 700 seniors to get vaccinated yesterday, which changed the dynamics of the clinic a little bit, especially with online registration and all of those pieces that go with it. But both the Village of Downers Grove and the Village of Woodridge, along with Darien and Westmont, worked really hard to make sure that those doses went to seniors. The majority of them went to, I think, over the age of 73 or 74, but definitely over the age of 70. So it was really successful. It was a great event. We had tons of volunteers here yesterday. It was great to see people come through. I talked to several people that Like, this was the first time they had really been out in almost a year. So, and we're really excited about what this opportunity was going to offer them moving forward. So we'll do this again for the second dose. So those that received the first dose yesterday will come through for the second dose on the 21st. And then what we'll continue to do is work with other pharmacies like the ones we've been talking to, Jewel Osco, Mariano's, CVS, Walgreens, and see if we can find a partnership there where they're looking for a space to run a community clinic, and we know how to do it now. Ed and his team were fabulous over here. They did all of the facility planning and making sure everything was set up and ready to go. Ken Sorensen over at North High worked on making sure that we had it appropriately staffed for the day. So it was a full team effort across the district and across the community. So it was a really energizing day to see everybody come through. I'm still a little tired. Gina got me beat on footsteps because she was cleaning chairs. I was the runner running back and forth through the building. I think she beat me by a few thousand steps. So, but it was a very successful day.
Well, I just want to give kudos to the staff and all the work that went in on yesterday. I saw a couple posts on Facebook and also exchanged a couple of texts about how well things were done. So I really appreciate seeing everybody. I came out yesterday for a few minutes and seeing everybody there and just the work you were willing to put in for that. It was also interesting as I was sitting watching people come in to get the vaccination, kind of the relief that you saw on people's face. Some people were almost kind of trotting in and they were just relieved. So I think it's a great testament to our community and to our staff and the work that you guys are willing to do. I think I referred to Dr. Thiele yesterday as nurse, nursing. So thank you guys for that.
There's a couple of pictures from the day. Yeah, it was a good event. Thank you.
How did we notify the community members? I saw a few things on Facebook. But
Yeah, community members we turned over to the villages to work on that. I mean, they have far more inroads with, especially senior citizens than we do. It's a different demographic than what we serve. So the villages really did a lot of work, especially, when 2 weeks ago, they thought they were only going to have to reach out to a couple hundred people, and it turned out to reaching out to hundreds of people. Unfortunately, all of the signups for all of this are all online. They're all digital. So with some folks that took some hand-holding, Julie was fabulous because a lot of seniors called my office because, it was the District 99 consortium. So Julie was working all week helping people get in. Even Saturday morning, she was talking to people on the phone, and then she was the point of contact all day Saturday or Sunday. So, we did what we could to help. But really, the villages headed up the majority of that work. Thank you. And my favorite picture of the day is the little styrofoam cooler that they carry in that has, all of these vaccines. And it's just crazy to see just somebody show up with a cooler.
It saved lives.
It was just a little shocking that, oh, that's it?
Right.
There was like no fanfare, right? So, but a great day. Update in the last week on saliva screening. You can see we're starting to post to our dashboard. We have these metrics that we keep posting, the community metrics, our internal case data, and now we're also added to that our saliva sample data. So you can see that from the 2 weeks. There was a lot of changes from week 1 to week 2, obviously going from required to voluntary, but we also had an alternate schedule last week, which threw a lot of students off as well, because the days that the samples were due were different. So, I wouldn't extrapolate too much out from week 1 to week 2. We'll see how that goes, moving forward and see what the trends build out. But I know we heard from quite a few people that were concerned if we would hit that 10% number for the CDC additional guidance for screening numbers. And the number of 10% was far surpassed by 47%. Any questions on that?
I saw that the University of Illinois' saliva test just got emergency approval from FDA. Is that something that down the road that potentially could impact us here? Something we could take
Yeah, I
advantage
think
of?
it's an additional tool. It's a far different test than what we do with our screening,
Right.
especially with the fact that the samples have to be gathered on site, where the screening we have now allows students to do it, privacy of their home and then bring it to
Right.
school, right? It's also it's an official PCR test, the new one, the Shield test, which is an advantage, but there's about twice the cost associated as well. So Gina and Scott, as they evaluated the screening process, did evaluate the Shield product at that time, knowing that it was going to be
Okay.
available to us soon. I think the Shield product probably fits a niche for us because it is a relatively low-cost, easy PCR test. So I would think that it would be another tool available to us for families and students to take advantage of. I do believe that a community Shield site is being set up in DuPage County. The health department has mentioned that, and I believe that Senator Curran has been actively working to get that in the county. So I would imagine you'll see that show up for the community sometime soon. And just to review our planning from last week, we formed the task force. Those invitations went out today, I believe, from Ed and Janice. And then we're meeting on Wednesday night. Thursday, the leadership team is meeting to work on building potential schedule models. When we meet on Wednesday night, that core team will give us things that they want us to consider, key themes, ideas, concepts that they would like for us to build in or try to build into those schedules as we pull all of the logistical pieces together. Remember, we've got to fit guidelines, we've got to fit just the environments that we're working in, the size of the building, the structures, all of those kinds of things, limitations that are still there on social distancing and those kinds of things, especially related to lunch periods, together with our curriculum and what we're trying to do instructionally throughout the day. So we'll try to fold all of that together with their themes in mind over the next week. And then next week we'll get out a survey. Last week when we met, I neglected to to put the word family there. Just as we have surveyed students, families, and staff all year, we'll continue to do that. That'll go out with some of the big concepts that we're putting together for a full in-person schedule. And next week we'll bring you to those big concepts or the next time we meet, we'll bring you those big concepts with the feedback that we receive. And then heading into spring break, we'll get everything set up and ready to go. And then we just wait for the metrics to get to a point where we could actually return in a full in-person model. So we do anticipate additional guidance in the next week or so here from the Illinois Department of Public Health. The biggest thing that we anticipate that we have heard is a change in the 50 per person limit, or 50 person per space limitation. And at a school our size, that is a hugely restrictive set of guidance. We can't even get a full band program together in a space, no matter how big that space is. 50 people and you're trying to do lunch, that's very restrictive, right? So we hope to see that guideline go away and just to go to the physical distancing and other safety guidelines. And that will greatly impact our ability to plan for a full in-person return. So that's kind of what we'll be up to over the next few weeks.
Hey, Hank,
Questions?
have you heard of any, with the new guidelines that are coming out, you mentioned that the 50 per room, has there been any talk in Illinois about the 6 feet? I know other states have reduced or changed that 6 feet guidance. I don't know what the direction Illinois is looking at with the 6 feet.
Yeah, we saw the CDC make that change based on metrics, right? And that's what we discussed last week with that change. DuPage County Health Department in our meeting last week was mirroring the CDC language, We're just waiting for IDPH, so Illinois Department of Public Health and the Illinois State Board of Education, to also issue guidance that mirrors that. However, we anticipate that they've followed the CDC guidelines in their planning. So I anticipate that the Illinois guidance will reflect the CDC guidance as it has pretty closely in the past. And then when our metrics are in those two lowest levels, the low or minimal, I think, are the two lowest ones, but we're below 50 cases per 100,000, below 5% positivity rate. When we're below both of those, then this full in-person model will be on the table and available. Any other questions?
I think the difference in the, with the current CDC and currently with IDPH, it's 6 feet being mandatory versus 6 feet being as much as you can, right? That's the nuance that we're talking about just now.
Right. The language that we've had through the first half of the year was all 6 feet of distance if possible.
Right.
And then we were told to interpret that if you could design an instructional plan, i.e. the hybrid model, that would keep everybody 6 feet away from one another, then that's possible, right? That's what we've been told to interpret that as. So if you can design a plan to keep kids 6 feet apart and staff 6 feet, that's the plan you need to go with. The change that was made in the new guidelines was, depending on where the community transmission metrics are, there's an area that's above 50 per 100,000 cases and above the 5% positivity rate. You move into these realms where you must maintain 6 feet of social distancing. You must, right? Then when you drop into the lower two levels, it's if possible, meaning spread everybody apart, do what you can instructionally to keep kids from mixing, follow the other guidelines around contact tracing and lunches and those kinds of things. But if people are 5.5 feet apart, if they're 4 feet apart, like that's okay, because the community transmission levels are lower. So that's what they finally, and then we had that webinar I described last week where the CDC really answered schools' questions around what does if possible mean. And I think we have collectively, as schools, have much clearer guidance from the CDC now than what we've had over the course of the year.
No, we have a lot of people watching at home, so I thought it'd be good to just go back over that. So thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, one other question. Do we anticipate, I forgot the colors, but the lowest end where we can go back full in-person, I think it was under 50, the blue, and then at what level, or aren't we looking at this for this year, do we not offer remote anymore? And students have to be in school. Has that been addressed by the CDC?
That has not been addressed. As far as Illinois has indicated, is that I fully expect that students will have that option through the end of this school year. There's been no talk that would change for this school year. The CDC guidelines say that anybody with a medical reason for themselves or a family member should be provided that option, whereas Illinois says all students should be provided that option. So far, as we move forward, we'll move forward with the intention that all students will be able to choose that option because, like I said, there's no indication that would change at this point in time. However, we are having discussions this week with the leadership team of how do we encourage students to come back? Now that we've established a pretty safe learning environment, we've been back pretty steadily since winter break minus 1 week. We're not seeing outbreaks at school. We're seeing every week we check in with our team to make sure we're with fidelity following all of the safety practices. We are. You saw 2 weeks of screening data, and you see the number of cases that are coming back in the screening are very, very low. And we believe generally overall our students that are here in person are doing better than those that are fully remote. We have a lot to offer to our students when they're here with us. So one of the things that we'll be discussing with our leadership team this week is how do we better inform people that it's safe, to encourage people to come back, to let them know we have space for them to be here. You know, our hybrid plan is designed so that every student can be here every day for half a day for 4 days a week, right? And that's far more days and far more frequency than many schools in the state offer, especially large public high schools. So I'm very proud of the plan we've put together. I think we've proven we can do it successfully and safely. And I'd love for, no matter which area we're in, if we're in the higher levels or the lower levels, for as many students to come back and take advantage of it as possible. I mean, that's been our goal all year, is to get students back to school in person.
Well, I think our track record of success here, too, would hopefully be something that people can look at in order to have confidence and maybe alleviate some of the fears that people might have had early on, I would hope. Those screening numbers, the 5 the first week, the 1 the second week, have those been confirmed positive COVID cases, or are they just positive for a viral load, which could be?
They show a significant viral load. It wouldn't be appropriate for me with the small number to say what came next.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be too easy to identify who we're talking about. So.
Okay, I see. So, but to be clear, that just because there's a positive on the screening doesn't mean that it's necessarily a positive COVID number.
Yeah, it's 1 in 10,000 cases will be a false significant finding.
Okay.
So it's a strongly reliable process.
I see.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Oh boy, I need a new clicker here. All right, a few other things. The next, today is our first night talking about staffing for next year. Those of you that remember year to year, this is when we come to you and just give you a heads up that is part of the big conversation that we'll have on the 15th, the staffing recommendations that we have that are outside of student course requests. Okay, so the majority of what we'll bring you in staffing in a couple of weeks is tied directly to the courses that students select. And then we staff to meet what students want to participate in, right? We try to bring you recommendations so that students can get as many of their requests filled as possible. But every year there are courses that are outside of that. We used to call these below the line type courses for those of you that have been here for a while. But we've changed our vocabulary to be the courses that are outside of the sectioning process. Okay, and you'll see on here we have a few. The biggest one of these is tied to T99, as the board is well aware our attendance is growing rapidly there. So to keep up with that change in enrollment, we need to add a staff member at T99. And you know, we're building out, we're going to build out that building a great deal over the summer as well. So this is the staffing that we need to go along with that change. And then the other two changes are related to social work and special services, particularly tied to special education minutes. We're seeing an increase in the number of special education students across the district, and an increase in the amount of social work that goes along with that staffing need and those requirements. So you'll see how this fits in on the 15th, along with sectioning and all of our other staff recommendations, but we always give you a heads up that these are going to be part of that recommendation in a couple of weeks. So any questions on any of these?
Hank, I have a question.
Yeah.
I guess, do you foresee that these requirements would stay in place then? You hate to hire somebody for 1 year and then let them go, especially in this field. So do you foresee that we're increasing the employment, but then we see that trend will carry out for maybe 5 or 10 years?
It's a good thing that Scott came here tonight. Scott, can you answer that question for me? Scott's been, yeah, no, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
We'll put
You
Scott
would hope
on
it
the-
would carry
on the
on.
space.
You
Yeah.
would hope the trend would carry
Yeah, I
on.
mean, obviously, when students qualify for special education, they, the team meets and talks about what kind of services that are needed. And then students have annual reviews, and then they have a 3-year re-eval. So that's usually when services are changed.
Okay.
Meaning that if you were going to remove services, you would do that at the 3-year re-eval time. You can adjust, obviously, services along the way. So like, say, when we're talking about the social work, you might, at the initial meeting, determine how many minutes are needed and then adjust that. It may be more the next year, maybe more the next year, or maybe less. But we don't anticipate, this is a pretty solid number that we feel comfortable with for a long term to provide the support that we need.
Yeah, because relationships develop from this. And you hate to have a relationship develop and then, next year now we don't have a spot for you,
No, yeah,
So,
that,
and I guess my answer would be is you guys have been great about supporting special education and adding services, and we've added social work in the past couple of years as well. And so you can see we're adding to it, so it's not going the other way.
Good.
So yeah, I think it'll maintain what you're looking for. That's consistency and getting to know the staff and things like that.
Right, the consistency, that's the big.
And we do it all based on numbers though, so I mean, that's how we kind of arrive at our different special ed needs for the FTE for social work.
Do we also anticipate, so going into next year, let's all be hopeful next year is a much more normal year than this year. But you do have, and I forgot the numbers exactly, 45% here at South, 25% or so at North students, at least freshmen through juniors who are remote all year. You have the other set of the population that has been in and out of school all year. Do we need additional services as we start school next year to support that reentry back into full-time everyday school? Do we have the supports we need to help the kids with that transition in the fall?
yeah, I think there's two pathways to answer that. One is social emotional needs, and I think you're seeing some of the response to that up here because, this is related to special education, but we have a lot of resources around psychology, social work, counseling across the district. This adds to that pool, to share the workload that's going to be associated with that. And then when we come back on the 15th, Gina will be talking about other interventions that we'll be proposing to put in place, but that will fall under the sectioned amount of FTE that we bring you. So on the 15th, we'll bring you that whole picture, and you'll see inside of that, we are anticipating some need to support students in different ways next school year.
Scott, do you feel that this is a good number, or did you say, we want this, but we'll ask for this? Or
No, I feel like this is a solid number to help support, and I think, like Hank was saying, if we obviously didn't get these numbers to go through to get the support, then our social workers and teams that are working to support general education would pick up pieces of the special ed realm, of minutes and things like that. So this is a perfect number to provide the support and then allow our general ed staff to take care of our general ed population of students.
So you feel good about these numbers?
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay.
excited if we can approve this. This would be solid for
Good.
us.
Good.
All right, thanks for being here, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, like I said, no approval of this tonight. This all comes back with the bigger picture on the 15th, but this is always that first preview as we work that way. Okay. Finally, just master facility plan updates. Just some quick images here that the projects that continue to come along. The auditorium, just fabulous space, slowly coming into shape here, or I guess quickly coming into shape. You can really starting to feel like an auditorium as you look at those pictures, rather than just a big box. All right. I'm going to start giving Zoe the clicker so it'll work over there. South High Commons, they're actually starting to put the glass in. You can see the grand staircase there. Some really striking views of how that commons is coming along. You can see the top middle there, or the top left. That blue glass is the study loft area, so some really cool spaces. North High Commons also coming along. Here's a couple of images of a couple of the walls and corners, and I believe the bottom corner is a couple of classrooms, or maybe that's the activities office coming into place. And then here's kind of a wide shot, or a little further back shot of that three-story glass curtain facing south in that common space. And you can see a little bit of the glass at the top. The area that's brown at the top, that's plywood right now, is soon to be glass. So that'll be going in over the next, I think, month here.
On the what?
There's a lot of areas I wouldn't want to drive on.
What's that?
There's a lot of tall areas I wouldn't want to paint or drive on.
Yeah, there's a lot of volume in these spaces. Yeah. All right, that's it for superintendent's reports.
Okay, so we'll move on to the reception of visitors and public comment. Does anybody wish to address the board? Hearing none, do we have a motion for adjournment?
And there are no online.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, I just want to make sure that,
No,
we
there are no online comments. Go ahead.
let the record know.
Finish. I apologize. No online comments. Do we have a
I
motion?
move we adjourn.
Terry?
Second.
Mike, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Richard?